Well, hello there, John Meyer here. Last week I made a video where I sampled the wind chimes that are behind me. Now they don't belong to me, they belong to my friend Jordan, so I sampled them in his backyard one evening, and I also sampled them in the studio. So really the fun in this was getting it into contact and trying to figure out ways that I could manipulate the sounds to create something interesting. So like I demonstrated in the silly intro, I had the sounds playing normally, and then I did quite a bit of manipulation to make them morph into something a little weird and creepy. Now obviously you don't have to make it that weird. You can simply play the chimes in a certain random nature in a certain key, and it will sound like it's part of your score but have the wind chime effect. So lots of different things you can do with this, but hopefully when we get into contact you can take some of these ideas, the way that I added some life and humanizing qualities to the sounds, and use those on your own sounds in your own productions. So let's take a look. Alright, back in the studio. Before I get started talking about this sound, if you use ScreenFlow to record your videos and you have two monitors, make sure that you are not recording the wrong monitor, because I just did all this and now I'm having to do it again. So that's a tech tip for today. But first of all, let me just play the sound. Now when I open up the guts of the plugin, we can see that I have the chimes and an ambient and a pad. I'll get to that in a second, but right now you are just hearing the sound of the chimes. I went ahead and loaded them in. There's two velocity layers, no round robins yet. I hope to eventually add round robins if I develop this further. But also notice that I pitched these down and up for the lowest notes, because why not? You might as well have this. Or the super high. So these could be used for in a lot of different scenarios. You could try to recreate natural sounding bells, chimes. So right now I don't have any of the knobs on the front panel. So if you want to adjust anything in here, you're going to have to go do it yourself. And eventually I will have those knobs on the front panel, but right now you're kind of on your own. So I'm going to turn the volume down to the chimes right here. And I'm going to go up to this ambient, which this is a pad that I created from the outdoor sounds. Down here the sound has a really slow attack time and a long release. And I've done some EQing. I'm dropping some of the low mids to get rid of that kind of buildup that you often get with pad-like sounds. I made these sounds by taking the outdoor individual chimes that I recorded and copying them and duplicating them and reversing them and adding different effects and crossfading to where I have one long continuous note. So that's how I made those. Now I also have another pad that I was working on that is more of a pure sound. The noise is simply the noise from the microphones being and the preamps being up as loud as I could get them for these very quiet sounds. I don't mind a little noise. It never bothers me. But this is the pure option of the two pads. But if you bring them in together, now if I bring the chimes back in, also including a WAV file that is a couple minutes of the environment being recorded around me. So when you add that in to these sounds, you can recreate the sound of a backyard, or you can add your own environmental sounds, and that's what's really going to help sell this. Now, the thing that I really wanted to do after I got into this process was figure out how could I make the chimes play in a natural way without me having to do that. It's just not that hard to fake, but it was a challenge that I wanted to take on. So if you go into script editor, I loaded in an arpeggiator, just a basic arpeggiator that you can go by going to factory, sequencing, and arpeggiator. And when I unbypass this, I have it set to 1/128, but if you go to like 16th notes, this next tab here is a humanizer, and I actually, this is bad of me, but I found this script somewhere online because there was something I was trying to do, and I can't remember exactly what I was trying to do, but I found it on Reddit, I think, and I copied it over. I'm not even sure where I got it, and I don't even know what it does, but I don't want to mess with it at this point. So when I go to Arpeggiator, I'm going to put this down to 1/128 because I found that worked the best. Now, I'm going to put everything down to 0, and nothing's happening. But I'm going to play just a basic chord here, and I'm going to turn my note on up. So what it's doing is the arpeggiator is going, and then it's randomly turning notes on. I know what it's doing, I just can't explain it. I think you probably know what it's doing too. This is where you will benefit from round robins whenever there's two notes that hit back to back. And so I'll try to add those in a future release of this. But to create the sound that I made in the beginning track, the opening weirdness, I went to this tuning knob right here and I started to bring it up. Somewhat subtle amount. If you bring it way up, now I did find in this script there was a place where I could adjust how much that knob would control the tuning change. This number right here was at -1000 and this was at 1000, so I made them 3000 and -3000. So it just makes it more dramatic. So in order to create the effect in Pro Tools, I added a few plugins, but right here, if we look at this sound, notice that the mod wheel is on CC1, which is controlling the tuning, and it's raising that up right here as the track progresses. I also just really quickly found this sci-fi plugin in Pro Tools, and I automated the depth of the sound. So if I were to play this, and I bring this depth way up, that's a little weird. But I brought that up just to add a bit more of that sci-fi weirdness and creepiness. I think I also added a delay. Just a small room reverb. I know it's outdoors, but I was just trying to get the sound away from, you know, the microphones are so close. So just to add a little bit of depth to it seemed to kind of push it back into the mix. So that's some of the things that you can do with these sounds. Hopefully it inspires you to use these sounds in your own productions, but also to use some of these techniques in Kontakt to get in there, just start messing around and seeing if you can add some life and movement to the sounds that you already have. You can go pick these up at my website, johnmeyermusic.com/samples, along with some other instruments. These will be there for a while, then they'll go away, and they'll come back at some point down the line. So download them, make something with them, and please share your songs with me. I'd appreciate it.